Hello and welcome to the Aussie Mixed and Fixed GT Series live on Apex Racing TV. My name is Sam Fitzpatrick. Alongside me for tonight's action is Daniel Leeds, Scott Newton operating the cameras, and we're here at Daytona, Florida Beach for this one. Daniel, of course, plenty of practice for these drivers with the 24 currently occurring for many drivers. Of course, many of the Australians taking part in this race have already completed it. So there's no shortage of experience and knowledge of this circuit already. So we could see some very high quality driving and some very close driving out there for the racing tonight.
Yeah, good evening, Sam, and to all the viewers. Great to have you back. Yeah, mate, absolutely. It's obviously everyone in Australia, or a lot of Australians, did the session one of the Daytona 24, and for a few guys potentially still doing the second session as it's on at the moment, this could be a good warm up for them to get into before they get back in the car to finish out their respective races. That being said, for any of the guys who did run earlier on today, absolutely going to be drained on top of that. So while the racing will definitely be hard and fast, and as you say, a lot of laps have been turned in preparation for the special event, the racing will still be of a very, very high standard today. And I think for all the guys out there in the GTE cars today, it's going to be as close a field as we traditionally have, and some great racing up and down throughout the field.
Yeah, of course, the slipstream effect around this circuit is usually a great equalizer anyway, but yeah, combine that with the fact that these drivers would have pounded in so many laps, albeit not necessarily in the car that they're driving for this championship, but they've still got a lot of experience around this place. We could have some nice racing. A few less drivers for today's event. We're usually upwards of 60 plus drivers, 60 to 100 drivers, a few less, I think just under 40, but that's still not bad, so it should be very good racing out there. We are currently in a 10-minute practice session. The drivers did pre-qualifying, and that will set the grid for this race, and then we'll go for a 45-minute event. I believe last season we had a 1.5 hour event around this place. It was one of the endurance meetings. It was Craig Edwards winning on that occasion. Craig not here tonight and doesn't seem to be taking part this season, so could we'll have a new winner here at Daytona for this round of the championship. So the drivers are starting to grid up at the moment, and on pole position, as we have kind of become accustomed to in the second half of last season and the start of this season, it is Ross Rizzo. James Glasspool starts in second place, then it's Braden Nash. Trent Thomas lines up in fourth position, then it's Nathan Huppertz, Tom Huggan lining up in sixth, then it is Damon Mulqueen, Scott Soslowski, Matt Morris and Brock Kramer rounding out the top 10. Behind that is Scott Forsyth, Bradley Sanders, Cam Walker, Pat Gallo, Rob Boson, Adrian Vlock, Jesse Butler, Craig Anspatch, Chris Keeping, Aaron Cooper in 20th place. Then it's Lucas Malikev, Paul Warwick, Brenton Hawkins, Justin Quinn, Jacob Meyer, Michael Schroeder, Pete Minette, Simeone Perago, Chris Barnes, Todd George, Matt Bailey, James Thomas, Frank Hodak, Brad Adlam, Nathan Saunders, Tristan Kosh, Shane Giffin, Dylan Whitford, and then the organisers Justin Cotsville, Stephen Varga and Adam Gardner, rounding out the 41 drivers, but 38 will be taking part in this race. Plenty of new faces there, as you could probably guess from my mispronunciation, Daniel, of many of those names near the back of the order. It's nice to see a few guys in this top split, and they could be getting some big points tonight for this championship, some big points available in this top split.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's great to see everyone still come out and put on a show. It is awesome that we were able to combine traditionally what a lot of these drivers would see down in the second split, getting a great opportunity to come run up with the big guys and really test themselves out to see where they stack up over one of these events, which is awesome to see.
Yeah, it'll be great to see how far up the order they can get. We are about to get this meeting underway, then the safety car is about to peel off into the pits. and then the field will be under Ross Rizzo's control as to when he feels like putting his foot down on the gas. He holds off for a moment as the defending champion, but the green flag is now out, and we are underway for 45 minutes of racing at Daytona. It wasn't a particularly strong start for Rizzo, didn't get the jump, but he has still maintained that lead going into turn 1. Glasspool happy to stay in second place, almost a little bit of a look from Beard Nash there, just going down the inside. 3 wide for about 12th position down there, as the drivers are very cautious. We've got a driver off the track, it's Tom Huggan immediately skating across, and also we've got a big hold up, one driver into the wall and another driver spinning off, and now more contact going into the horseshoe. Seems like that was a BMW just going in way too deep. Lots of damage for many of the drivers who do have faster pairs that they'll be able to pick up, and they should be able to get to the end of the race from here. But that is a huge shame for many of the drivers there, Daniel, and well, that's just the nature of the start of this circuit. It is very narrow around that part.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we saw that first incident get picked up right off the back of turn 1 there, and these guys will be funneling through 3 wide in some areas, but that is really going to shake up the field a bit. And for the guys that do incur some damage and have to come through the pits, while they will complete that 1 mandatory pit stop, it's going to drop them a long way behind, and without the benefit of having a draft from someone else around them. So it's going to make their night very, very tricky as they work their way through. Out front, though, Ford's leading the way. 3 Fords out in the top 3, and definitely the car to be in currently. Nathan Huppert's doing an awesome job in the Fusion C8. And then Damon Mulqueen, who we don't traditionally see a lot of driving in the series, used to do a lot of the back-end photography for this championship, out there having a steer tonight and currently sitting up in that top 5.
Do we know what happened to James Glasspool? Because he's dropped from second place down to 13th as... well, there was almost a bit of contact between, I think it was Mulqueen and, or it was Thomas just getting ahead of Huppert, so Thomas up into 3rd position, or maybe he was just defending from Huppert's right there. So the nature of the circuit, you get a massive draft effect, and there is Glasspool way down the order. He had a decent start, was in second place, but I can only imagine he got like a slowdown or something, which has cost him badly. Oh, hard into the wall for Warwick. Paul Warwick into the wall, and he's going to try to get that one back underway, but that could be another penalty because that was a little bit of an unsafe rejoin there. Remarkably, not too much damage. I crashed in almost the exact same way on lap 4 of the 24 yesterday, and trust me, my car was not that good looking, albeit he has lost the bonnet. We'll probably have to serve an early pit stop.
Yeah, well, he's got the new cooling mod on board there without the hood, so a lot of work for him to do. Maybe a little bit of damage. Hopefully we'll get a look at how that's gone on. Here's a look back at James Glasspool from the restart. We'll see what goes off. This car, one of the Mach 1 cars, way off wide, and then just locks the brake, then gets a bit of a touch-up. I think that might have been Braden Nash rotated him around, so gets caught in the rear, and that sort of started the initial trigger of what we saw later on for the rest of that field through turn 1.
Yeah, we were so focused on the carnage that was happening behind. We missed this one for second place, but there it was. Glasspool running in deep, very slow mid-corner, and Nash maybe on those cold tyres just going into it. I wonder if Nash will be susceptible to a penalty on that one, but it'll be a tight call for the organiser to decide. It does mean that Rizzo's got a 1.4 second lead, but Nash keeping up with him. You can see on that last lap did take a little bit out of the race leader further down. Scott Zlaski sometimes struggles in qualifying, but he's up into 12th place in the race. He's actually down 4 places, so I think Zlaski may have collided. May have been that driver who collided on the way through. Kramer's very slow on the inside there. I don't know how Kramer would have lost out there. Oh, he's all over the place now, is Brock Kramer, doing very well. Previously, I think it was up in 6th place, but all of a sudden down to 15th, and yeah, maybe even outside of the top 20 once he gets back up to speed. So that does promote plenty of these drivers up. Scott Forsyth up into 8th place, and Cam Walker doing very well. Apologies, Forsyth in 7th place, Cam Walker doing very well in 8th place.
As we keep focus on this little battle here, Jesse Butler's got a mirror of Glasspool as they work their way around. Soslowski's going to try and tuck in on that draft there, so we'll see what he's able to do. And Scott Forsyth just ahead. So Cam Walker going to drag these guys all the way down towards the bus stop, and that is not the spot you want to be in. as they hear the top gear on the way down, very late run into the bus stop. And you've got to be cautious of that chicane entry. You don't want to pick up the off tracks there. It's very easy to rotate the car. And the few that we have seen over the 24, when they do, they generally fire hard right off into that wall.
Yes, one of the most common mistakes around this circuit. That bus stop is so tricky on the entry and, of course, as you say, on the exit. But looks to the outside, inside, then outside. Oh, it's so tricky to make the move down into this turn one. It's remarkable that you have about a kilometre straight out of plateau action. And it's still tricky to get the move done because the outside of that turn one off camber is so easy to lose adhesion. But so a brilliant job here as Jesse Butler. He's got the inside on Walker, down the inside at turn 2. And looking like he has the slightly better exit. In fact, it is Walker with a slightly better exit as we've got a unsafe rejoin for the car 06. Butler finally is ahead and the floodgates are starting to open now for Walker because he's down into 11th place. 3 places lost just like that. Scott Seslowski, the last one to make it past.
Oh, no, another car off. That's Butler. He's dropped it on the exit there. I wonder if there's some contact involved in that one as well. But he's going to have to wait for the entire field to come through, and that's going to drop him well down the order. Here's a look at how this one unfolds as they work their way up towards the end of the infield section. And actually, he's done it all on his own there. Just grabbed the brake just a touch, and around she went.
Captain leaders down to 9/10 of a second now, but we'll focus on this one, the BMW versus the Ferrari. The BMW tends to be, at least from, again, this is, I'm not an expert on this, but I do believe the BMW is the fastest car down the straight. And let's see if he can perhaps pull off this move. And Matt Moore seemingly just happy to stay behind. Apologies, that Damon Mulqueen just happy to stay behind at the moment. Did you race in the GTEs, Daniel, at the weekend?
No, I jumped into one of the P2 cars along with Scott Hinton and a couple of other guys from the Codison Sports team, and had a pretty eventful night. Come home, I think P8 in that split, and awesome run. A lot of incidents and carnage as always, but very, very enjoyable nonetheless.
Well, congratulations! Not easy in the P2 car, certainly to. Deal with all that traffic. Very good results. Huppers back ahead of Thomas then. Trent Thomas got back ahead, I think, on like lap 2 or something. They had a nice bounce down into turn 1. But Huppers just not with the pace of the boat rounds. Remember, Huppers nearly won the championship 2 seasons ago. In the end, just beaten out by Timothy Theben, who didn't have connection issues at Bellal in the last round of the championship. Meanwhile, Hupperts did, and Hupperts came into that round of the championship lead. It would have been ever so close between the two of them. Who knows who would have won if it weren't for that, but it really could have gone either way. So Hupperts, terrific drive, and of course then we had Joshua Thomas, who won the championship, then Ross Rizzo last season, and Rizzo looking to become the first man in many seasons to defend his championship. It really has been almost a free-for-all for this series for many seasons, such as the competitiveness of the drivers and the constant newcomers which are coming in challenging the established drivers. But Rizzo is being kept honest right now, because it looks like, to me, looks like Nash is faster, Daniel, because he was out on the draft. I think he was over after lap 1. He was about 1.6 seconds behind. He managed to close that gap. So Peter Nash is on absolute fire right here. He seems to be dialed into this Daytona circuit.
Yeah, he's doing a really, really solid job. And I mean, it's nice to have him back in the championship as well. He sat out last season, and prior to that, very, very quick competitor. So great to see someone who's come along, taking it up to Ross Rizzo. And for Nash at the moment, this is probably the prime spot to be. He's going to be able to use the draft, save a little bit of fuel. And we already know how good Ross Rizzo is on a fuel strategy. This could be a great opportunity for Nash to maybe try a little bit of an undercut and see whether he can come back out with a bit more of an advantage as they work their way down towards the bus stop chicane. Surprising, not able to catch up too much through the draft though.
I wonder if he's just maybe on half throttle as he catches up, as you say, maybe going for an alternative strategy. Although here we go, he's going to the outside at turn 3, NASCAR turn 3. Rizzo not giving it to him. But Nash just now ducking back in. Now this is where you can get some real overspeed. You can see now the time being gained, but again he lifts off slightly, and Nash happy to stay in second place for now. I can't help but feel that is the right decision, because whilst Nash might be faster than Rizzo, I doubt he could break away from Rizzo. I imagine Rizzo would be able to stay within about a second of his rival. Huppert's and Thomas alongside each other going down into turn 1. Huppert's defending that position, remains in third place, and Bowden versus Walker. That is Bowden getting ahead. Let's move up into 11th place. Also, Glasspool just got past Sislowski, and Sanders got past Sislowski, and a bunch of other drivers are going to get past Sislowski because he joins a rather large group of drivers who have crashed now at that corner. And I cry every time, because that's, like I said earlier on, where I crashed yesterday. But no, it seems to be a common error.
Yeah, a little bit of a tricky spot there. I don't know whether he just got a bit of a wiggle up on the exit. Here's a look at how that unfolded. So very wide, missing the brake zone into turn number 1 there. Lets the teammate through, and then picks up the dirt on the outside, and as he was trying to allow a little bit of room for the cars to work their way through, and at the end of that, gone around there. Fortunate that he, on the rejoin block, was able to have a little bit of awareness and not make any contact, but that'll definitely catch the eye of the race stewards for the rejoin. We've already seen one penalty as a result of that so far tonight.
Yeah, I did look at the numbers on screen. I couldn't spot who actually got that penalty, so apologies. It could have been James Thomas, but I'm not 100% sure. In fact, actually, someone must have gone through the pits, haven't they? So it could have been James Thomas, yeah, because James Thomas did go through the pits earlier on in the race. But yeah, I'm not quite sure if the number matched up or not. As yeah, we're now 12 minutes into this race, still very much in the early stages of this event. Plenty of time remaining. Apologies if the SDK Gaming screen just coming up a little bit, but you can still see the action. You can still see the how much do you need to see? How much do you need to see after all? But when we get to the pit stops, I imagine, Daniel, this race is really going to change. With the high fuel consumption, I mean, the fuel may only go to just over the half an hour mark. There's going to be, or probably not even the half an hour mark, maybe only 25 minutes these drivers can last, because, of course, you're on the throttle so much around this track.
Yeah, fuel burn's going to be really, really tricky to manage. It's going to be very high for these cars. I know from a P2's perspective, we're running around that 3 litres a lap, so I can only assume for these guys, going to be up around about 3.5, maybe 4 litres as they work their way through. A little bit more downforce and momentum of the cars that needs to be pushed along, so that will definitely shorten it down. We do have a slightly smaller fuel tank, as we see Gallo dropping into the lane, and he's got another car ahead of him. That might be Slowski coming through as well. Actually, yeah, Slowski's through the lane as well. And yeah, that'll be interesting strategy. I think you're going to want to wait as long as possible, though. Come in with a partner and try and maximise what you can, the draft like we're seeing from these front 2 cars in Rizzo and Nash.
Yeah, these guys have got it sorted that they're working together, saving a bit of fuel. So yeah, smart driving from these guys at the moment. But yeah, Trent Thomas into the pits, yeah, Brian Nash still keeping Ross Rizzo very honest. Currently leader of the drivers who've come into the pits is Scott Sislowski, because after that big crash that he had in the first part of the lap. And also got yeah, James Glasspool and Bradley Sanders, Rob Bowden battling amongst one another ever so slightly as well. But so can we really do we have a particularly good idea kind of why Brian Nash do you think is so strong around this circuit, Dan? Because, you know, I think the common answer would be, oh, he's got a nice setup for this place after all the practice, but we kind of expected the order to be slightly shuffled around. But this incredible pace for Nash, who, you know, is a solid driver, but not usually fighting for the podium places. It's quite phenomenal.
Yeah, well, I mean, let's not forget it is fixed setup, so that will be slightly different for what everyone may or may not have been running. Uh, for those competitors that did compete in the 24, but for Nash right now, I mean, he's just got to mirror everything that Ross Rizzo does. Find the placement, and he's already got into that rhythm. We're 9 laps into this event right now. Doesn't take you very long to find that rhythm and just stick with the momentum, and you can basically pace yourself off those lead cars. And the Ford over the last 2 seasons we've seen has been exceptionally strong, and again we're seeing that here tonight. And they've already managed to accumulate about a 6.5 second advantage over Nathan Huppert's in the C8. So the Ford for this series right now, definitely the car to be in. And for Nash, all he's got to do is just mimic exactly what Ross Rizzo is going to do, and he's going to get himself in with a pretty good ticket to the very end of this race.
Oh, Huppert's with a problem. Huppert's has gone off at turn 1. Not too bad though for Huppert's. He was in 3rd place. I wonder if he's been given a tap here by Matt Morris, who moves up into 3rd place. No, I think Huppert's has just gone in too deep. Oh, maybe. Oh well, I was expecting the driver on pit exit to go and crash into him somehow. That didn't happen. I wonder if he was put off though by him. As you can hear, he's absolutely using all of 6th gear. And yeah, I mean, I would be put off, but you can see when you take that racing line, you're kind of on the ridge, and that is a risk of running that, you know, personally. And I don't think any driver should be basing their driving lines on myself, but I do take a very wide line to kind of square it up a bit more. But yeah, when you're on that ridge, you can kind of see how the rear end does slide out, especially with how little rear wing these drivers are running. But also behind that, Mole Queen also ran wide, so Huppert's only with the 1 place lost. He's down into 4th position now. But yeah, 10 seconds off the race lead. Back to Matt Bailey in 15th place. Advancing with Chris Barnes. We've got Jesse Butler and Pete Minette a little bit further ahead.
It's been a good run for Bailey too. I mean, he's already up 14 spots. Obviously, that aided a little bit by that incident we saw on the opening lap, but very strong drive, as we've also got Braden Nash now in the lane for a quick pit stop as well.
It's an interesting strategy, Daniel. I would have thought he would go as far as possible. I'm not quite sure why he would have pitted in that early. You know, if you're with Ross Rizzo, if you're saving fuel sitting behind him, I don't really see the points in pitting early. I'd go for the overcuts, if anything, or at least just hold station. So yeah, I'm a little bit perplexed by that one, because Nash seemed to have a real grip on this race.
He did. I actually think this might be a pretty handy move that he's doing at the moment, because just looking on the track map at the moment, Ross Rizzo already into the back of lap traffic. So for Nash, while he has come out a fair way down the order, he's currently down in that 6th position with a few cars ahead of him. Rizzo's having to battle with the lap traffic already, and that potentially is more risk that Nash is trying to avoid.
James Glasspool has got in a slight bit of bother. It's down into 11th place now. Glasspool's just lost about 3 places. I think that was on, must be going on to the oval where he's had that problem. As Rizzo, will he respond? Still very early in the race, and he doesn't respond. So he'll just stay out. And how much traffic then is there gonna be for Nash? 15 seconds off the race leader at the moment. In fact, sorry, did Nash actually come to a standstill, or did he just drive straight through the pits?
Well, I'm wondering, I have a feeling he would have stopped. I think it would have been possibly prior to the timing and scoring line down the lane there, because there are a couple of drivers that have registered as going through, but no pit stop time alongside them. So, which is a little bit interesting. We'll have to maybe double check and see what's going on with that one. But yeah, he should be okay. And based on the pace that we're already seeing from that Ford in particular, he's definitely going to close up on the back of the guys.
So this was Braden Nash just after the pit stop. I'm going to go back on my, or just before the pit stop, apologies. I will go back as well on my replay to see if I can find if he actually came to a stop or not. But yeah, at the moment, it's going quite swimmingly for Braden Nash on that one on my screen. Apologies, maybe I'm not quite seeing what I'm supposed to be seeing.
Hang on. I wonder, is this the possible drive-through from that earlier lap 1 contact? Because we did see him getting into the back of one of the top 3 cars. Who was that?
Glasspool.
Might have been Glasspool early on, so potentially a drive-through.
It was a drive-through. Yeah, I'm just seeing it come up on my screen now. So, yeah, Braden Nash with the drive-through penalty. I was thinking that he was only 15 seconds off the lead, which seemed very close, seeing that he'd done a drive-through. So that is, or a pit stop, sorry. That is a huge shame for Nash. It was a marginal one. Like I said earlier on, the stewards thought about it for quite a number of laps. It was only about 15 minutes into the race that they made that decision. Yep, they decided penalty for him. So, unfortunately, that means that Rizzo should have a clear run to the race win from here, as we just see Warwick getting past Maya. Yeah, it should be a pretty easy win now for Ross Rizzo, and it's just about how many positions Nash can recover. Dare I say, Daniel, though, I think Nash could still get second place out of this one because he has got such terrific pace tonight.
Yeah, well, he's already caught to the back of that train, so now it becomes the tricky part of picking your spots and working your way through it. So I have to see what his racecraft is like at this point, but this is going to be a really good test to see. He's already got the gap down to a second to the back of Scott Forsyth in the Errors Motorsports car just ahead, and he'll definitely be looking to make his way through at a rapid rate. I know some good battling too further down the field. We just caught that little fight between Paul Warwick and Jacob Mara, as you're saying, and those guys pretty inseparable. Jacob Mara's had a very interesting race, already dropped well down the order from some earlier contact, and I've just been watching him tick back up through the timing and scoring, so some guys recovering quite nicely early on.
Who was that? Apologies?
Jacob Marr for Coda Sim Sports. So battling down in 24th position off the back of Paul Warwick there. So a little bit of an interesting run for him so far tonight, but working his way back up through the field. And he's got that one pit stop already done.
Yeah, he pitted on that one, didn't he? So should be able to get to the end of the race, I believe, from that point. Yeah, because I believe the drivers are capped on fuel a bit, but it's mainly the fuel set, the fixed setup that is the main limiter for fuel. So of course, once you've filled up the tank, that can't limit you anymore. Jacob Meyer, though, with that slight mistake, down into a 23rd position now. But yeah, we'll be interested to see if he can go to the end of the race, or maybe not quite enough fuel being put into that car. Earlier on, Jesse Butler and Chris Barnes into the pits. By the way, of course, you got the stripes on the side of the timing tower. They might not be totally accurate, but they certainly do give you a decent indication of kind of what the pecking or the established pecking order is. So if you've got a purple stripe next to a driver's name, that means that they are an elite driver, the creme de la creme, the big cheese, if you will. The green represents pro drivers, so they're still very established, usually drivers who have been around the series for a while and are very quick. Then you've got the amber, or the orange, for the amateur drivers, and then you've got red for the rookies, and I think quite a few of those rookie drivers are incorrect because we did see them last season, but often those rookie drivers can overperform, mix it with the amateurs and maybe even some of the pros as well. You can see it's like a vegetable salad out there with all those different bright colours being mixed about one another. So yeah, those classes not segregating these drivers too much. A nice mix of drivers all the way down the order, as we see one rookie get past another. That was George past Adlam. Yeah,
and a nice run down there in through the bus stop. I thought George might have been very compromised on the run down into that one because he was right up against the initial curb entry there. So driving the car nicely through. He's going to be very vulnerable down into turn one. So we'll have to see whether there is an attempted redress there for Adlam. And he's got a few more guys working their way through the lane as well. Matt Bailey, Dylan Whitworth and Paul Warwick have also gone through their respective pit stops.
Yeah, about half the field have now come into the pits at one point or another. A few of them were drive-throughs, however. Of course, that will mean that you'll have to come into the pits again. Huppert's with a very good run coming out of the bus stop, and you should be able to catch Morris at a very good point here. Can go to the outside as Rizzo opts into the pits. Huppert's going the long way round. I did say earlier on how the fuel wouldn't go much further than 25 minutes, and that's kind of what we're seeing. Huppert's with a little bit of fuel saving, being behind Morris for so long, takes the lead of the race. I think he may have been up near the front as well last time out as well, Huppert. So he's having a good start to the season. We had the Christmas Cup during December and early January, but this round and Silverstone last time, the only meetings which so far have contributed points to the championship. So it's still very open. The Huppers might well be up in second place at the end of this race in the championship, being able to extend that strategy a bit further. Nash also into the pits. He's still ahead of Malt Queen, got past Malt Queen pretty much a lap or so before the pit stop, as he comes back out onto circuit. So I believe Nash is now in effective 5th position when you take away all the drivers who have yet to come into the pits. I think Nash was only 3 seconds off Huppert. So yeah, I think Nash is looking very good for second place. And just looking at some of his lap times, Daniel, he was lapping close to a second faster than the race leader. I don't think he'll quite catch up to Ross Rizzo by the end, but I think he could be as close as maybe 5 or 6 seconds behind.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see, because I mean, let's not forget he did have that drive through the pit lane. That was 22 seconds transit time for him to get through there. So he's got a lot of work to do to close back up. But if he's able to do it, he should be in very good stead. As you see the times down the bottom, taking quite a bit out of Matt Morris ahead. And a new livery on the Matt Morris Ferrari as well, used to the traditional green and black. A lot more black on that livery this time by, as Nathan Huppert now drops into the lane. So that's our top 10 effectively in. We've still got a few cars yet to come through in the form of Cam Walker, who, as we say, that comes in, and along with Adrian Vlock. So the timing and scoring will cleanse itself. We will see Rizzo back out towards the front. And then Trent Thomas is in a very good position. He could well find himself up in that third spot or second spot as well.
Yeah, you got a good point. Is he going to be ahead of Huppert here? Here comes Thomas. Yep. Oh, he ran a little bit wide, and it's going to be close. He'll have the inside line though, and it is Trent Thomas up into second place. So they were close beforehand. Thomas with the early pit stop, and he is back up into second place. But crucially for Huppert, he is still within 3:10, so he should be able to stay in the draft and probably will have a good chance later on. Morris and Nash with a bit of catching up to get onto the back of those drivers. Another close exit here with Walker coming out behind Sislavsky. Sislavsky and Huggan have already crashed. Remember, Sislavsky crashed they both crashed on pretty much the same place, but on different laps and in different directions. Huggan spearing off into the wall. Huggan spearing off into the grass on the right, and Sislavsky spearing off to the left into the wall, but they are still 10th and 12th, and that is the advantage of the fast repair, obviously. But nice drive actually from Huggan, because he was way down the order after that early spin, but he might be able to recover a top 10 out of this.
Yeah, definitely. He's already closing up on the back of Cam Walker ahead in another Ferrari, so that gap down to 6/10 of a second. The pace for Huggan at the moment was around, on average, is about a second quicker than what we're seeing from Walker ahead. So look for him to close that gap down very, very soon. And just in front of that, we've also got Scott Sislowski, who is in that 10th position currently. So there's plenty of opportunity for either of these two to find their way up into that top 10. And actually, include Adrian Vlock in that, because he's only 7/10 of a second behind this battle as well, and he's going to get full advantage of the draft as they work their way around to complete this lap.
Yeah, Vlock will have a good view of any battle that starts to kick off between these drivers. And Glasspool as well, you know, only 2.5 seconds behind Glasspool, who started up in second place. Got tapped around, obviously, earlier on, and then has had another issue since then. So hence why he's down in 14th place, but I don't have much doubt that he will be onto the back of these guys by the end of the race. Still 15 more minutes of this event to go to decide who's going, what's the pecking order for round 2 of the championship is going to be. Much further down the order, we've got Perigo, and he has just got ahead of Quinn there. Good move there from Perigo. Once again, like I said earlier on, big points on offer for some of these drivers who I personally, I don't think I've ever seen in the top split before, but because of the slightly diminished drivers signing up for today's race, they have got an opportunity in this top split, which is absolutely awesome to see these guys, the last drivers on the lead lap. And they got Griffin further up the road, Shane Griffin, only 2 seconds further ahead. There he is, so maybe catchable for the Italian a bit further up. Credit to Perigo as well for getting up early in the morning to race in this series. He might live in Australia anyway, it might just be from Italy, but if he is from Italy, congrats to him for getting up in this in these early hours of the morning. Morris right behind Nash. Nash in fact getting past Matt Morris there. So up into 4th position now is Nash, and his recovery is almost complete. He's now 11 seconds behind the race leader. When he came out of the pits earlier on, he was about 16 seconds behind. So he's taken 5 seconds out of Rizzo in probably the last 15 minutes or so. What could have been? I really think Nash would have won this race if it hadn't been for the incident he had with Glasspool. And he will be very frustrated with that because it's not every day that he's had this level of speed.
No, not at all. I mean, they had a very good showing for NSR Esports at Silverstone last weekend, and again, continuing a reasonably good run of form for the team through here. He's got 3 seconds to make up if he wants to get onto the back of Nathan Huppers, but looking at the pace that he's got currently, no reason to think he wouldn't be able to do so. He was 7/10 quicker last time by over Huppets, and that's a pretty hefty margin around a circuit like this. As you can see, a little bit of lap traffic for him to contend with as well. That's one of the cars down in 34. Might be Justin Quinn potentially, and he'll have to work his way through. Mole Queen a little further back now. Got Scott Forsyth, so all over the back of him. So work through NASCAR 3 and 4, and this could be a good run for Forsyth down into 1 if he's able to close up. You can already see the draft coming into full effect. He's got to use it and place this car nicely, but going around the outside is a big ask at this point.
Yeah, a few more marbles as well on the outside of the track at this point of the race, and Forsyth just staying behind. I was going to ask, do you know who Bruce Forsyth is? Or was? Do you know?
No,
do you not?
I know a name similar to it. Couldn't tell you though, and I would love to learn though.
You know, take it or leave it. But that's why I kind of just naturally, yeah, no, I have to hold back using Bruce Forsyth constantly. I'm really surprised he's not. You don't know him in Australia personally, but because he is. He's very famous in this country. Anyway, apologies. Away from light entertainment.
Well, I was going to say, Forsyth for me is Forsyth Racing from IndyCar is traditionally where I would go with a name like that. So a little bit of a difference, but it's still motorsport heritage.
Yeah, a bit more relevant than my connection. Forsyth has got back past Paul Queen, so into the bus stop as well. We don't see very many moves into the bus stop because drivers kind of think I could go for the move here, but I'll just stay behind and then get the run down into turn 1. Of course, going side by side into the bus stop really does kill your entry, and so it's not usually worth it, but felt like going for the move. Huppert's then, he feels like going for a move on Thomas. Can't help but feel like a podium for these guys would be really good, considering that, of course, Glasspool and Nash kind of ruined each other's races. Well, that's Nash ruins his race and Glasspool's race at this corner on lap 1. Just staying in second and third place until the final lap, probably the wise thing to do. Maybe that's what Huppers is thinking right now, and certainly we haven't seen much defensive driving from Thomas so far. On that last lap, they lost 0.3 of a second to Nash. The gap is just under 3 seconds, and we've got 10 minutes to go. Using some very complex maths, it means that it will be close should the gap continue to decrease at the rate it is. So it's best for them not to battle anytime soon and just consolidate this podium for now.
Yeah, it definitely. I think just hold station, learn what you can learn. And I think for Nathan Huppert, this is exactly what he's trying to do right now. He's looking at the strengths and weaknesses of Trent as they work through. I think for Nathan, if he can just maintain a bit of a gap like he is right now on the run through the bus stop, and potentially a little bit of traffic, we have got some little further around the circuit. If he can use that to his advantage, almost like a little bit of a pick, he can get through quite comfortably. This was a good run for him, and look at the advantage in the top speed there. I don't know whether there was a slight slowdown penalty issue for Trent from iRacing, but this is the closest opportunity we've seen for Huppert. So this is a great practice rehearsal, effectively, for what they could be facing in about 10 minutes' time.
Huppert's seemingly quite slowed down the straight there because he managed to get ahead, and then the Ford managing to pull back ahead. I imagine Huppert's was going for the move there, so perhaps that's a real weakness of the of the C8 then, or at least the setup that he's got on that, where maybe he's struggling down the straights, which will mean that maybe it would be best for him to be behind going onto the last lap. Otherwise, he could be a sitting duck. Or you could say, you know, try to make a gap through the infield on the last lap, and that would be his best strategy. So, yeah, let's see what he tries to do. We saw a very similar finish in the AOSC Super Series last season, I believe, for the race win. I think on that occasion, the driver with running more downforce really wanted to be behind going onto the last lap, because they kind of knew if they were ahead going onto the last lap or coming out of the bus stop, that, you know, if they didn't have a gap of more than half a second, then they would be overtaken. So it'll be interesting to see what Huppert is thinking on that regard. Hagen still in 12th place, hasn't made much of an impression on Walker. In fact, did Walker get back past him? No, I think they've all stayed in the same order. But Walker holding his own against two very good drivers in the form of Sislowski and Hagen. Block not quite catching up. Glasspool now onto the back of Block, though. I wonder if we'll see a move any moment now for 13th place between Block and Glasspool, just behind this battle. Because Glasspool is closing in. You can just see him on the inside going into the bus stop in the background, and that is Block holding ahead for now. So no change, but I think, yeah, Glasspool will be up to 13th place pretty soon. Here comes the move, though, from Hagen. He's finally going to pounce on Walker and to go the long way round, and now they're just hoping that they get the draft from Sislowski, but this is very much in Sislowski's control now.
Yeah, if Sislowski's able to stay where he is, he's going to be able to move up and down throughout the lane, try and affect a bit of a draft from this, very similar to what we'd see traditionally in a Daytona 500 NASCAR event, where the driver's really trying to utilise the draft and maximise those opportunities. So Sislowski has it all to gain here, and if not, definitely going to see these guys start to freight train him through. Further down, Craig Anspach having another good run, all over the back of Aaron Kuppler, down in 15th position. And two Porsches here running down into turn 4. Not much separating either of these two cars at the moment.
Yeah, that is a tight one. One of the tightest battles in the second half of the order. Here is Hagen. This is how he got past Cam Walker. It was a nice move. Walker taking a lot of curb on the inside there, trying to defend, trying to avoid a collision more than anything. And Hagen with the guts to go around the outside there and moves ahead. Next up, Suslowski. They won't catch up to Sanders by the end, or Bowden, but 10th place would still not be bad parking considering that he spun off in the very early corners of the race. Glasspool actually having to still trying to get past Block. I thought he'd be past Block by now, but Block is defending astutely. And every lap that Glasspool is staying behind kind of diminishes the chances of him being able to catch up to Huggan and Walker and co. Looks like Glasspool will stay in 13th or 14th to the end of the race. Here comes the Ford though, once again. If that C8 is slowed down the straights, then the Ford GT should have a good chance, but he never seemed to get a good enough exit out of the bus stop, and he's leaving himself a lot to do from this position. Goes off camber slightly, still got part of his car alongside. Can he muscle his way down the inside? He's still got almost part of his car alongside, but in the end, Block defending very well, and he fends off another attack. Only 3 more laps to go.
Yeah, really nice car placement there for Vlock down the inside, holding the line there, really making Glasspool work for it. We saw the same down through the bus stop chicane. Glasspool, though, forcefully gets the Ford down the inside. That's a nice move. Just picked up that little jink to the right, or the leftist field for Vlock, and was able to get that car down. So Vlock's going to have a lot of work now to do to try and return serve. But Glasspool, having seen exactly how Vlock drives this, is going to use all that against him to try and maintain the spot.
Bowden's been caught by Sanders, not too far behind Forsyth and Malt Queen either. But Bowden with no draft ahead. This should be pretty simple here, surely, for Sanders. Identical cars across fixed setup in this series. All the cars are very evenly matched and, of course, identical. Will these Porsches be? The only slight differences might be a little bit of damage and maybe slight differences in the amount of fuel that they took at the pit stop. But Sanders actually lifting out to that one and deciding not to go for the move. Now they got to deal with a back marker or two. Very tricky scenario. It's 3 wide, and that was, but still not easy for them at the moment. And this is actually Mulqueen, who lost out massively from that. I thought he was one of the back markers, but I don't know what happened with Damon Mulqueen. Maybe a slowdown or something, because he's all of a sudden lost 2 seconds. He was right on the back of Forsyth, and now he's into the clutches of Bowden, who's trying to get past. Now goes to the outside. Got to be careful not to run into the back of his rival. So this will be a tight three-way battle now for this 7th position to the end of the race.
Absolutely. I'd love to see whether we're able to maybe get a look at what happened to Mulqueen there, because very uncharacteristic move. He's lost 4.5 seconds off the back of Scott Forsyth as a result of whatever little issue he had. Here's a look down on the run there. So already losing time. So I reckon he's picked up a slowdown out through the bus stop and just trying to clear that position as they work their way through. Didn't get out of 5th gear, so just trying to slow as much as possible and using every little bit of track and then some to help clear that time. So he has really compromised himself there to at least retain as much of the track space as he can, but clear that penalty at the same time. And he has now just also lost that position to Rob Bowden as well.
I'm really surprised that he lost that much time with the slowdown, because usually the way that it works is that you have to lose a certain amount of time compared to your best lap. And considering your best lap is going to have a draft, really shocked that he lost that much time, but maybe he just served it badly. Maybe it was increasing and then he had to serve a load of it right at the end. He's trying to come back, but again off camber, and he's left himself vulnerable from Sanders again. I just thought of the Sanders sitting down meme all of a sudden. Apologies. Mulqueen staying ahead of Sanders. And should be close enough for the draft down into turn 1 again. In fact, we'll just force another lap, I believe. Yeah, we'll force another lap by about 15 seconds, I think. Rizzo way out in the lead ahead of Thomas Huppert and Nash, who are closing in on one another, but Nash still just a bit absent from that Thomas Huppert battle. And this will be close actually, but yeah, I think Rizzo will just get across the line with about 10 seconds to spare.
Yeah, if he's able to get that across, he should be all right. Nash actually is probably in the best opportunity he's going to have. There's some lap traffic ahead of our second and third contenders at the moment that they're going to have to work through. And I mean, Rizzo's already dealt with those quite handsomely and got away, and we will start that final lap. But for Nash now, he is going to be looking as what he can do. And you can see him there just in the back of shot, that green car. The Ford just hanging in there as Huppert tries the outside move. We've seen a lot of guys attempt it so far tonight, not able to get it done. Actually loses the spot now to Braden Nash down the inside.
Brilliant work there from Nash. It's so easy to get preoccupied with what's going on ahead, miss your apex slightly, and yeah, not really look at what you're doing. But he absolutely nailed that turn on. The speed that he carried through, a little bit of a drift as well, was absolutely fantastic. And now Nash has gone from 1 second behind to up into the middle of this battle. Good news for Thomas is that he's got a bit of a draft. They've all of a sudden come into a whole heap of back markers, and he should have a good chance of just getting into the draft. But right now, Nash is all over the back of him. But yeah, Thomas is just trying to kind of get a slingshot off each one of these. These drivers might be quite reluctant to let these faster drivers go, considering that they're in their own battle. Here comes Thomas. Down the inside, it's going to be a race to the line between these drivers to decide who's going to get second, third, and fourth positions. But out in the lead, Ross Rizzo is going to take another race win. He wasn't necessarily the fastest driver. Nash looked very quick in the early stages, but Nash, with that collision, ruled him out of any chance. And Ross Rizzo is going to take his first race win of the season. The defending champion takes the win at Daytona. Who's going to win out of Nash and Thomas? Nash is very, very close, but it is Thomas who got it with the help of the draft ahead of him, and he held on by 3/100ths of a second. Nash definitely would have got the move done had it not been for the back markers, but that draft effect right at the end for Thomas was enough. Meanwhile, Suslowski versus Huggan. Huggan's going to do it. He's got the longer run, but he's done it by a 1/100th of a second. Brilliant there from Tom Huggan to finish in 9th place. He will be very pleased with that one. A few more drivers still to come across the line. Are there going to be any mega close? Maybe Maya and Mikalev might be close to one another. This one is lining up nicely. Just got to get the exit just right. How close is he? He might be just a bit too far behind here, Maya. It'll take him a little while to start closing that gap. The gap has 0.3 of a second, as we've got Keeping, who's very slow, running out of fuel. I think the extra lap forced Keeping out of the race there, but here comes Mayer. He's, which way will he go? He's got to go to the inside, surely. No, he's gone to the outside, and that's a slightly longer run. He'll still have it, though, and Mayer gets it on the line. There were some brilliant battles back there. 2/100ths of a second between the two cars. We've still got Keeping, who in fact is the last driver on the lead lap, so Keeping's all right, even though he is not going to reach the line now unless he gets a bit of a helping hand from behind. Classic Daytona action there. Right there, Daniel. We can rely on a tight finish, and we had quite a few there, and a couple for some very important places.
Yeah, absolutely. It was great driving all the way around. Ross Rizzo again didn't put a foot wrong throughout the entirety of that run. Big talking point, Braden Nash, obviously getting that drive-through penalty, able to drive the car back up into that third position and only narrowly missing out on effective second place as a result of that. And then right at the end, we saw some great battling for the minor places as well, down in 21st and 22nd with Mar and Mikalev. So some awesome racing up and down. And for the guys from Split 2 that traditionally don't get a run here, put on a very good show for everyone as well.
Yes. Any drivers watching back? Thanks for putting on a good show. Thanks to any viewers as well for tuning in for the race. We can bring you through your final finishing order then for today's event. and it was Ross Rizzo who managed to take the win. In fact, actually, we have got them up. Ross Rizzo takes the race win ahead of Trent Thomas. Tricky Esports 1-2. Didn't realise that. But nice work there from Thomas. Brandon Nash finishes in third place. There's Nathan Harper's Matt Morris. Scott Forsyth with a really good result. That might be Scott's best result in the series. Rob Bowden was in 7th place. Then it was Damon Mulqueen, Tom Huggan, and Scott Sislowski. Cam Walker finished in 11th place. Then it was James Glasspool, Adrian Vlock, Bradley Sanders, Matt Bailey, Aaron Cooper, Chris Barnes, Craig Anspach in 11th place. Pete Minette was in 19th. Then it was Pat Gallo, Jacob Mayer, Lucas Michelef, apologies. Then it was Paul Warwick, Todd George, Brenton Hawkins, Chris Keeping, Simeon Perigay, Brock Kramer, Tristan Kosh, Brad Adlam, Dylan Whitworth, Shane Griffin, Justin Quinn, Frank Hodak, James Thomas, Michael Schroeder, Nathan Saunders, Jesse Butler, rounding out the 38 cars. Of course, Varga, Gardner, and Cotterville all doing a great job in the stewards department. A few penalties having to be given out right there, but on the most part, as we usually see in this series, particularly in recent seasons, the driving standards have got quite a bit better. We tend to have more safe races out on track. So we will get an interview with some of our drivers, and first up in for a chat with us is going to be Ross Rizzo, who managed to take the race win out here tonight. Congratulations, Ross. You must have been quite concerned though in those early stages because Braden looked very quick. Do you think Braden had the edge of pace on you tonight?
He obviously did. I mean, I'd consigned myself to P2 after, the 10th minute, being like, well, he can just sit in behind and save fuel, or if not, he'll just be able to drive straight around me. So the penalty definitely fizzled out that battle.
Yeah, it sure did. What did you think when he came into the pits? Did you just think that he'd come into the pits early, or did you know that he'd had that drive-through penalty?
I saw the message from race control, and I was kind of asking with James, it's like, what was that all about? And he said, he did actually hit him, and I was, okay, so that makes sense, because obviously I saw James spin around and a bit of calamity behind me, but we didn't talk too much about how it all happened, because obviously we weren't sure about. James wasn't sure whether or not to call it into race control and whatnot, so we just pressed on. So it was a big surprise to hear that actually Braden was involved in that.
Yeah, absolutely. Your pit stop was quite short, actually. It was 13.98 seconds, a bit shorter than the others. Were you tight on fuel at the end? Because that extra lap, I thought, might be quite detrimental to you.
No, I calculated it to be pretty tight, and I did a bit of fuel saving with Braden behind me. I was trying to see if I could do something to back him into the field, or maybe force him to overtake me or something. So I did actually save a bit of fuel doing those tactics, but yeah, there was no real concern with how tight it was at the end.
And the first two races under your belt, you got quite a sizable lead, or maybe not sizable, but you got a little bit of a decent lead now. You must be pleased with how the start of this season has gone, how you've been able to maintain your form from last season.
I'd prefer it under more less unusual circumstances. Obviously, Danny didn't show up tonight, and Byron's been showing a good bit of pace lately, and so is Luke Bergens. So to see none of them here tonight, and they've also had very different stories at the start of their season. It's kind of more or less by luck that I'm more or less at the top of the standings, which is more accustomed to what I'm used to rather than what happened last season. So I would prefer. It would be nice to see them back, but I'll take it. I'll take it. But it'll be. Hopefully, we'll see them back next race.
Yeah, hopefully. So hopefully, someone can give you a challenge. out there, like I saw at Zilston and tonight, to be fair, from Prazen. Is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out to?
So just quick acknowledgement to Braden and his pace, just awesome. I think he would have definitely won that race, so well done to himself and Phoenix for, I think it's Phoenix. There's such a new team, I'm not quite sure, but yes, to have some good showings early in their lifespan they must be thrilled. So good on them. And to Trick Esports, Trick Custom Fabrications, Pro Sim Gear, and again to the community who contributed to getting the broadcasts underway. Thank you once again, and it's a great community story to be able to chat to you guys after a race like this.
Awesome. Well, thanks for having a chat with us, Ross, and best of luck for the next round of the championship.
All right, thank you very much, guys.
Ross Vuzay, your race winner here at Daytona. I would just like to give a quick shout out to one of our sponsors for this broadcast, of course, SDK Gaming. Of course, provide our lovely overlay along with our live timing software. So if you're looking to get a similar overlay to the one that we have, do visit SDK Gaming. You can do a bunch of customization as well for it, and it's brilliant as well as a heads-up display for when you're racing. So yeah, do check out SDK Gaming for all of that. We're now going to have a chat with our second place man, Trent Thomas, and he's standing by with Daniel.
Yeah, thanks, Sam. Trent, congratulations on another strong result for yourself and the Trick Esports team. It was hard; you were hard pressed to get home in the end, and just kept the nose of the Ford ahead of Nash. But earlier on in the race, you found yourself in some very strongly contested battling against yourself and Nathan Huppert. How was it early on from your point of view?
Yeah, I'm still struggling to get grips with this car. It's not my preferred choice, but I need to sort of expand my horizons, so to speak. It's a quick car. It's good. Just doesn't suit my driving style. But yeah, early on, just takes me a couple of laps to sort of get into a rhythm in a race. And yeah, I made a few mistakes early on, and that gave Nathan the opportunity to be ahead of me. And I think Matt Morris was with us too. So I thought I damaged the car coming out of the first International Horseshoe. I ran over the curb there on the exit. I thought I damaged the car. I didn't feel like I had any top end speed. So that, and I felt like I was getting held up a little bit just because we were battling too hard. So I made a decision to pit a bit earlier, which I think paid off in the end. I jumped Matt Morris by about 3 seconds, but yeah, Nathan come out just behind me, and the battle just continued from there.
Yeah, and what were your thoughts on that? Obviously, we saw you coming through, managed to get ahead out on track while Nathan was exiting through the pit lane. And as we watched the rejoin, you had the inside position to hold that corner. You must have been thinking to yourself, geez, what have I got to do to get away from him? But yourself and Nathan had very strong battle, which continued right up through to that very last lap. What were your thoughts as you guys started to close in on that lap traffic, knowing potentially Braden was in for a look at a move if there were any issues along the way? And did it play in your mind when he did close up to you where you needed to be to try and maximise the draft from those cars ahead to retain that second spot?
To be honest, I was watching the cars ahead. I wasn't sure if we'd catch them or not. I didn't have much luck with some of the traffic throughout the race. But to be fair, I was actually more concerned about my fuel situation at that point. I realised that I was very touch and go to actually make it to the finish line. So those last 2 laps, I'm sort of started to do a little bit of lift and coast. And then coming into turn 1, I think it was, on the last lap, both Braden and Nathan had a pretty good run. Nathan was stuck on the outside of it, so that allowed Braden to get up the inside. And then I think it was just, we caught that lap traffic perfectly for me because it gave me the draft out of the bus stop. And I ended up finishing the race with 0.2 litres in the tank. So I was waiting for it to cough. It didn't quite do it, so I managed to get there in the end just.
Oh, well, you timed it to perfection for the run across the line there, mate. Congratulations on another great drive tonight. Before we let you go and enjoy the celebrations with your teammate, is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out and a thanks to?
Yeah, Trick Custom Fabrications, Pro Sim Gear. They look after us as a team. Obviously, the boys at Trick Esports as well. I've been limited with my running this week, so helping out with my fuel numbers and stuff like that for the race, which almost didn't pay off, but pretty close. But yeah, thank you.
Fantastic, mate. We'll look forward to catching up with you hopefully again next week.
Thanks, guys. Yeah.
So that was your second place man, Trent Thomas. We're also going to have a chat with Braden Nash, who was insanely quick today. Was Braden Nash coming home in third position? But Braden, we have to talk about it first up. The incident. I mean, when it happened, did you think, yeah, that's a penalty, or do you think you were a little bit hard done by?
Well, it's a tough one. On my in the moment, his back end came around for me on my screen. So I took evasive action, resulting in the collision. So at the time, I didn't think it'd be a penalty. Watching the replay, I can see where they're coming from, but I still think it's a bit harsh, considering he made a mistake as well.
Yeah, but that's the negative stuff done. We've ticked that box. On the positive, your pace was insane tonight. Can you put your finger on why that was? Because this is a fixed setup series. So, I mean, how was your why were you so fast?
I'm not too sure. I did 24 hours in the Porsche yesterday and this morning, and then jumped into this an hour before the race went live, and I just had a rocket up my bum. Not sure what happened.
What was your tactics in the early stages of the race when you were sat behind Ross? Were you going to try to go for the move eventually, or were you just planning on staying behind until the pit stops?
Yeah, I was planning on staying behind until the last lap, because I knew he had the pace to stay in my toe, and if that was the case, he'd get me before the line.
And looking ahead to the rest of the season, I mean, this is a very positive race for you. Does this change any kind of goals for you this season? Do you think maybe has this kind of upped your aspirations for kind of your final finishing position for this season?
This season, I just want to focus on doing the best I can every week. I've had a rough start, a couple of bad races. This is my best result. In the future, I'd love to win it one day, but I'm not putting a date on that yet.
Awesome. Well, certainly keep driving like you are, and I'm sure it might come sooner rather than later. Is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out to?
Yeah, just want to give a shout out to the NSR boys. We won the Daytona 24-hour on the top split of the Aussie split. So congrats to them. That's an awesome job. And we're currently winning split 40 of this this session. So
well,
yeah, keep going, boys.
Yeah, congratulations on that. That's an awesome achievement. And hope to see you back soon.
Thanks, mate.
Braden Nash there, finishing in third position. That rounds off pretty much the broadcast tonight. Another big thanks to SDK Gaming, also Apex Racing Academy. By some fantastic setups for rallycross cars, GT cars, prototypes, and single-seaters as well. Check out Apex Racing Academy for all of those setups and data packs and driving tutorials as well, driver coaching sessions as well, provided by Apex Racing Academy. Also, thanks to VRS as well. Also, a fantastic driver tuition service, and also kind of intertwined with Apex Racing Academy. So thanks for their support for the Academy, and also all of our broadcasts on Apex Racing TV. We will be back with you then for round 3 of the championship next Sunday. We've got plenty more action coming up though in the next week or so. We've got the first round of the Apex Racing Academy Porsche Cup Championship. That'll be 50 cars at Belle Isle. Apologies, not even Belle Isle, Long Beach on Wednesday. You do not want to miss that one. Also Apex Racing League Touring Car Championship, and also Apex Racing League GT is launching next week as well. So loads of action coming up on Apex Racing TV. Go subscribe to the YouTube channel, and you can catch all of the action coming up. But for now, from myself, Sam Fitzpatrick, from Daniel Leeds, and from Scott Newton, we are going to say goodbye, and we will see you next time.